McMullen covers the Eagles for 97.3 ESPN.com. He also covers the league on a national level for today's Pigskin.com. We'll get into the NFL and the Birds here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, John?
Hello, Michael. I canceled my trip to Canada. I'm still trying to plug through it.
Well, the site crashed last night. So even if you wanted to go, I don't think you could have made it. But, hey, here you are. Let's break this all down. 8 games in. We're into Week 10 now. I opened up the show with this, John. We're Week 10. We're in double digits. That means the teams are taking the foot off the brake a little bit, and you're starting to slam down. We're starting to separate the pretenders just a little bit here as we get ready into this second half. And I'll start off with Eagles and the Falcons and their opponent, the Falcons. 8 games in. They're 9 games in. They haven't had to bye yet, 6-3. As we hit down to a stretch run here, we buying that team? You into the Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I'm not going to say I firmly believe that they're a Super Bowl contender, but they're the top offense in football, and I think it's legitimate when you look at they got a really good quarterback. They got maybe the best receiver in football. They got a much improved offensive line led by Alex Mack, who's a really good player, and they can run the football. So they can do everything and put you in. Jim Schwartz always talks about making teams one-dimensional. It's really hard to make Atlanta one-dimensional. You've seen the Eagles do that in the past. The Eagles themselves struggle running the football, or at least have in the first half of the season. So you can say, well, we're gonna double team Julio Jones, and we're gonna make him one-dimensional as far as taking that threat away, but then they're just going to run the football right down your throat. So this is a really tough matchup for the Eagles. But that said, they've been a totally different football team playing at home than playing on the road. They've been lights out at home, and we'll see if that holds up.
And that was them a couple of years ago, even when they were a pretty good team. They were not a very good road team. Let me ask you this. A lot of teams in the NFL, weak offensive lines. You can go after teams, Minnesota, even the Giants, even though the Eagles didn't take advantage of that. How is the offensive line of the Atlanta Falcons?
It's a lot better. It's one of the reasons they are a much improved team. And you bring over a Pro Bowl player like Mack, and that helps a lot. And it has helped them a lot. And that's one of the main reasons. And the running game helps as well, because they have 2 backs that can kind of gash you. So it all works in concert, obviously. But, when you have a quarterback who's a veteran and makes good decisions, and then you add to it play-action football where you have to respect the run, and then off the play-action you have a beast like Julio Jones. I mean, that's one where you're the defensive coordinator and you're pulling out your hair the minute you put their tape in, because what do you try to take away? And people usually start at Jones because he's a generational talent, and I understand that. But there are so many other pieces of this team that are playing really, really well. It's difficult to just say all we have to worry about is Julio Jones.
Yeah, and one thing, with they've given up a lot of points. So defensively, it seems like the Eagles' offense could get back on track this week. This is a team in Atlanta that scores a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points. And is it because they score so much that their defense is – are they one of those teams that scores so much so their defense is on the field a lot, so they give up more points, or do they just not have a good defense?
It's part of both. It's not a great defense. They've had trouble rushing the passer for a number of years. They've gotten a little bit better at it because Vic Beasley's having a bit of a breakout year. Dwight Freeney's down there, even though he's aging, still on a situational basis. He can get to the quarterback occasionally. So they've improved somewhat, but it's not a great defense by any stretch of the imagination. And then you add to it, when you get – Doug was talking about the flow of the game today, and when you get into a flow of a particular football game and sort of, the other team's putting up 34 points, it tends to turn into a shootout. So that's part of it as well.
John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. Doug was kind of asked a little bit today about running the ball a little bit more, and he said, look, I don't want to have Carson throwing 43, 47 times. but I'll ask you. Didn't we used to hear these same questions for Andy all the time? Hey, Andy, don't you think you should run the ball? Yeah, sure, we like to. We don't want to throw the ball that much. Screw you guys. I'm going to throw the ball.
Yeah, we did, and I understand people are going to make that correlation, and probably rightfully so. I can't go there yet simply because, it was different. If you go back to the Minnesota game, Carson only threw it, I don't know, 22 times maybe.
And they won.
And they won. So he's proven he can do it. But when you throw 2 interceptions and give the Giants a short field, well, then all of a sudden you get into that sort of on the mouse wheel, and you're trying to catch up, and you're trying to throw the football, and that's where the flow of the game, that's what he's talking about, comes in. So he admitted he doesn't want him throwing the football 45 or 47 times, whatever he threw it. It's just the way the game went, and he keeps talking about wanting to get the running game going. And the second part of that is, hey, Jordan Matthews today talked about the great running backs on this team. I just don't see it. I mean, I don't think there's great running backs on this team. Ryan Matthews is not the same player, obviously, since the concussion. Then you add in the ankle injury, the tooth infection, all the maladies he's had. Darren Sproles is limited. And then you're talking about 2 completely unproven players in Wendell Smallwood and Kenyon Barner. A lot of people think Smallwood could be a competent running back in this league, but that's all it is. We haven't seen it. We can't say it. To me, it looks like he's got some juice in his legs, but, this is not Devontae Freeman and what the Atlanta Falcons can throw at you.
Nope, and we know they're limited. And this is what I opened up the show with today, John, saying, this team halfway through, when I'm trying to think of today, all right, halfway through, what is this team? What's their identity? I don't think they have an offensive identity, but they remind me a lot of, I hate to say it, they remind me a lot of the Andy Reid, Jim Johnson teams, where those Jim Johnson defenses, they had great pressure, they forced turnovers, but they weren't great every single week. They had their moments that they stood out that made you think that maybe they were better than they were. They had Donovan McNabb. They asked them to make a play here and there. They didn't have great wide receivers, but they had Brian Westbrook. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. This team reminds me a lot of those Reid teams with a young quarterback, Wentz, akin to McNabb. They don't have Westbrook, not good receivers, asking the defense to completely win games for them on special teams. They seem like they're built in a similar fashion.
Yeah, they are. And you're right. There's a lot of comparisons. The fact that you have a young ascending quarterback and you don't have wide receiver talent, and you do have a very good defensive coordinator, and they have been able to play lights out defensively at times. That the special teams are, I often say, if we talked about the MVP of this team, if it's not Brandon Graham, maybe it is Dave Phipp, the special teams coach. That's how good they've been. So there is a lot of comparisons, minus Westbrook. They don't have that difference maker, although Sproles is a similar type player, but he is what he is. I mean, we all love Darren Sproles. It's not an insult to him. He's a very effective player, but he's 33 years old. He's undersized, and there's limitations to using him. So I don't think that part of the comparison holds up, because I thought Westbrook was one of the 2 or 3 best dual backs in football at the apex of his career. Darren Sproles is certainly not that at this stage of his career.
Real quick, couple injury things. Benny Logan back this week?
Not necessarily, but, he's getting closer, and he has been practicing on a limited basis, so there was a chance he could have played last week. I would say it's more likely than not this is the first time that he will go. He will try to play in this game. But a lot of people thought he was going to play last week, and all of a sudden he was questionable on the injury report Friday, and Saturday they ruled him out. So with those groins, it's one of those tricky injuries, and you got to get through the week of practice. So right now I would say early in the week it looks good, but we still got a long way to go.
And Barbary out?
Yeah, I would think so. He missed practice today. one of 4 players to miss practice, the other key one being Brent Selleck with the rib. But Doug said Brent Selleck's going to be able to go on Sunday, so he's already made that determination. Keeps listing Barber as week to week, and as he's used that terminology, we saw it with Zach Ertz first, who missed 2 games, plus they had the bye, so it was really a 3 or 4 week injury, and now we're talking Benny's missed 3 games. So it's very, very unlikely you're going to see Alan Barber on Sunday.
When a team, John, is a plus 57 points, differential, what does that tell you about that team?
Tells me it's a pretty good football team at this stage. But you need to have consistency, obviously, from week to week. And it's not surprising when you have a young quarterback that's never played before that's not necessarily there right now. And then you have the difference between home and road. And the fact is, the second half of the season, there's 5 home games as opposed to 3 in the first half. So that trends well because they were lights out at home. They beat the Browns. And by the way, the Browns gave them the closest matchup at home, really, if you think about it, because they just blew the doors off the Steelers and the Vikings, 2 playoff-level teams, at least according to some people. And we'll see. This is another one with the Atlanta Falcons. So if they go out and play again, like against this team, like they did against Pittsburgh and Minnesota, all of a sudden you're going to have to say, hey, this team's something at home. At least they can hang their hat on that.
Good point. Yeah,
and
I'm
we'll
interested
see going forward.
I'm interested to see how they do come out if home field is really a big advantage. I know Jordan Hicks said today they love playing there. It's one of his favorite things is playing at Lincoln Financial Field. We'll see if they really do have a home field advantage. I want to get into some NFL things with you. I saw this tweet from Real Football TV. If Dean Blandino can tweet about a call being incorrect, then why can't he just make the direct call to the official and say, yo, you messed up?
That's what I said. I said that on the show. I don't understand it. You have contact in New York. I don't understand. They have this aversion to technology. I mean, the technology is there. And one of the major reasons they're having these problems is because of technology. We talked about that on the show yesterday as well, and the fact that there were always missed calls. Now you get them in real time on Twitter, and you have people putting the clips up, and everybody's commenting on it, and it becomes a bigger thing. And technology obviously moves at the speed of light. I think the whole way the NFL does, if you look at the way college does the replay system compared to the NFL, how much better is that? I don't understand what the technology the NFL has. And remember, they have more cameras. They have that entire war room with the high-def cameras that they have, certainly above the average college game, where they could be making all these calls just buzzed down like the college system is and make the call and get it right. But they have this aversion to technology. It's bizarre to me.
I don't get it either. I agree. I think the college way is the way to go for the NFL, to have Blandino, guys like a Pereira, a Diopoulos, these former ref guys sitting somewhere and just have 3 or 4 of them in a room. And, when they make the call, hey, we watched your play. You messed up there. It's ridiculous. And, talking to former players and current players, they're fed up, and we know halfway through the year it's been a big time problem in this league. We move on, John, and obviously we look at the second half here. One thing, okay, we were talking about during the Fine Five, Ugly Five, the MVP race here. Brady, Stafford, Matt Ryan, Derek Carr. Who's your guy right now?
My guy's Matt Ryan right now, and probably after 16 games, I admit it's going to be Tom Brady. But you have to hold a little bit against him for not playing in the first 4 games. So at the midway point, I would say Matt Ryan's been the most impressive, and Derek Carr a close second.
Should be interesting. I said it'll be interesting to see, because I think if Oakland gets in and Atlanta both get into the playoffs, That means those two guys got them there, so they'll be interesting. But Josh brought up Matthew Stafford. If the Lions get in, I think he'll be another interesting name too, because if the Lions get in, that means Stafford got them there, and throw him into the mix. And you wonder if they'll take one of those guys over Brady because of the first 4 games being missed, or does Brady get more if he's neck and neck with those guys missing 4 games?
Yeah, remember, it doesn't have anything to do with the NFL. The voting for most valuable player. So it's not like they're going to be holding a grudge as far as, the league being upset. And I think a lot of people think that way. And from the most part, the AP, which does the awards and votes on them, they have tremendous respect for Tom Brady. So I don't think that's going to, as a football player, so I don't think that's going to enter the conversation at all. And I know that will make some people happy, make some other people upset, but just understand the NFL, the league itself, is not involved with that voting.
Tony Romo is practicing full. He could be active this Sunday for the game against Pittsburgh. Will Tony Romo start a game this season other than an injury issue to Prescott?
I would, at this stage, I would say no. You never say never in this league, because Dak could show up as a rookie and throw 4 interceptions one week, and all of a sudden you lose 2 or 3 straight games, and Dallas panics and goes back to Tony Romo. But I've not seen any evidence that that's going to happen. He's been calm and collected, very similar to Carson Wentz here, but the difference is he's got that offensive line. He's got that running game. He's got Dez Bryant. So I don't think the Cowboys are going to be capable of having these big lulls offensively because of the talent around him. Whereas here, Carson's throwing his best receivers, Jordan Matthews, Lane Johnson's suspended, Jason Kelsey's not having a good year. We talked about the lack of a running game. That's a big difference. And because of those guys, as long as Elliott's healthy, as long as Smith is healthy, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, they're not going to have that dip, and I don't think you're going to have a long series of ugly games.
All right, John, got plenty more on tomorrow's show. We'll get a closer look at the Falcons. We'll get ready for the weekend. Of course, the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow, we're live at Chickies and Pete's in Atlantic City, and John will be back with more from the coordinators speak tomorrow. We'll get Jim Schwartz's take on what he sees from Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. That's all coming up tomorrow. Thanks, John.
Hey, thank you, Mike.